Okay, the topic this time is to finish up something about selective attention and then to talk a little bit about automaticity. Okay, we talked about selective attention in the last video. This time I want to say a little something about how it's used for management and instruction. The first recommendation for this is to use what are called standard signals, just verbal cues, primarily things like saying let's get started, or let's move on to the next topic, or moving on to the next topic. Some teachers have other signals. They might use a bell or a whistle or something like that to signal to the students. I've seen teachers do something where the teacher would stand in the front and just raise their hand and stand there quietly. And when other children see that, they're supposed to all stop talking and raise their hand too. Little things like that that standard signals for teaching, but get control and gain attention. Another thing might be highlighting stimulus features. This would be particularly true of something like print materials, using different color or different font type, bold, underlining, italics, that sort of thing. In the classroom, it would be changing the inflection of your voice, or using gestures, or even movement. Some teachers do this where they don't just stay behind the desk. They get up, they walk around, they move around. Of course, you have to make sure you have a classroom where you can do that, and you have space to do that in between desks and whatnot. Another possibility is novelty, doing something a little different, changing the stimuli in the environment. Instead of just talking, you might show a film or have a discussion group, or change it up a bit and have something novel. Tends to help people continue to focus their attention. There are some studies and some research on helping learners themselves be able to control their own attention, selective attention, and stay on task. A couple of these are trying to get learners to take more time on a task. You know, in our society now, it's hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. Sometimes slower is better. Take more time, focus, get it right. There's a number of strategies. One of them that comes to my mind right now is this think out loud or talk out loud protocol. Particularly when you're doing something new and you're finding yourself having trouble. If you're having to read a difficult chapter, let's say you're reading something from the Dricoll textbook and you're tired, you're not quite able to get your mind around it, just start reading out loud to yourself. Emphasizing certain words, reading it over again. Taking a particular strategy like this and then being able to practice it a lot helps you to focus your own attention. There's more than just reading out loud. There's a number of these, but this one happens to be a pretty good one, and one that I use sometimes if I have to read something and it's late at night or a weekend and I'm tired. I'll just read out loud. I have seen people go as far as standing up, reading out loud, walking around while they do that. I know it appears kind of strange, but it's a way to help you focus your own attention. Okay? It's strategies where you yourself as the learner can help yourself to stay on task and stay focused. Okay. Automaticity. This is really quite simple. This is basically when you learn a task so well, or you become so familiar with a source of information that it is habitual, and it really doesn't require much attention. An example, driving. When you first learned to drive, you had to pay a lot of attention to your driving. As you got more familiar, particularly with driving from a certain point A to a certain point B, you know the traffic patterns, you know the street, you know the way. If you're driving in a place that's got a lot more traffic, or it's a place, a route that's new to you, or an area that's new to you, you might have to pay a bit more attention. And certainly I hope we all pay attention when we're driving, because it's a life and death decision sometimes. But you do tend to reach a level of automaticity where you don't have to be quite as focused as when you first start driving. Another example would be reading. When you're young and you're a novice reader, you're sounding out words, you're learning a lot of new vocabulary, and the complexity of reading grows as you get older and older and progress in education. But reading becomes very much an automatic activity. Now, if you're reading something that's very complex or new, again, that can slow you down quite a bit. You have to focus more attention. But the general activity of reading itself should reach a level of automaticity that's pretty high. Typing is another one. Now, it's for most people who've learned to touch type, grown up in the computer generation, it's pretty normal. I can see a lot of you who can take notes while I'm talking. At least I hope that's what you're doing on your computers out there. But touch typing is pretty normal for you. I didn't grow up in a generation where that was common, so I kind of had to learn. Of course, I don't type with two fingers. I use all my fingers, and there will be moments where I'm typing and I forget to pay attention, and I will suddenly realize that I'm touch typing quite quickly using all my fingers. But it's not a skill, and then when I start to think about it and realize I'm doing it, I start to mess up. But it is a skill with which you can achieve a great deal of automaticity, and you don't have to think about it much. You don't have to pay attention to where your fingers are. You can simply read or think about what you want to say, and tap, your fingers do the work. Musicians who play an instrument also reach a high level of automaticity, and athletes, people who perform dance. So we do this in a lot of things in everyday life, and it's a pretty important skill and very desirable in education.